Have you ever stopped to think about the connection between the classroom and the economy? It's this constant push and pull, this duel of ideas about what our schools should actually be preparing us for. And, well, the answer's way more complicated than you might think. I mean, let's just start with the biggest question of all, right? What is the fundamental point of school? Is it to get a good job? Is it to become a well-rounded person, an informed citizen? Your answer to this one question really shapes everything else that follows. And, this isn't just some academic debate. This question is more urgent than ever because the world of work has been completely turned on its head. Think about it. Globalization, the rise of tech, the decline of old-school manufacturing. Our economy today looks nothing like it did 50 years ago. So that puts this incredible pressure on our schools to either adapt or risk becoming totally irrelevant. So how are schools supposed to respond to all this change? Well, let's jump into the first major perspective. This is the new right view, which really champions free markets. And for them, the number one priority for education should be flexibility, making sure it meets the demands of this brand new economy. The new right takes a hard look at today's fast-paced, knowledge-based world and comes to a pretty sharp conclusion. The old way of doing things in education is just broken. That super rigid split between academic stuff like history or literature and vocational skills for specific trades, they see that as way too slow, way too inflexible for the 21st century. So what's their fix? A complete overhaul. They say we need to tear down that wall between academic and vocational studies. The idea is to create new qualifications that are all about competence, what you can actually do, not just what facts you've memorized. This means a huge shift toward practical, functional skills, like being able to work in a team or solve complex problems. The bottom line for them is to create a workforce that's adaptable and ready for pretty much anything. Okay, so that's one really powerful vision, but that's not the only game in town. Let's switch gears and see how a different perspective tackles the exact same problem. This is the social democratic view. They agree that we need new skills for sure, but they add another really critical goal into the mix: social fairness. For social democrats, the issue is really twofold. They'd say, yes, absolutely, technology has changed and we need a better qualified workforce for all these new service and IT jobs. But they argue our past education systems were also just deeply unfair, often creating divisions along class lines and basically limiting the potential of so many students right from the get-go. So, to hit both of these problems at once, the skills gap and social inequality, they propose one single powerful solution: a unified school system for every single child, something called comprehensive education. And the core idea here is really simple, but also pretty profound. Comprehensive schools bring everybody together into the same classroom. It doesn't matter what your grades were before, how much money your family has, or what neighborhood you live in. The whole point is to create a true social and class mix. The driving principle, the big ideal behind all of this is to create genuine equality of opportunity. It's all about building a system where, when you walk through those school gates, it's a truly level playing field for every single person. And here's what that actually means in practice. It's about getting rid of discrimination so that a real meritocracy can actually exist. A system where how far you go in life is determined by your talent and how hard you work, not by your background. And the belief here is that this isn't just the fair thing to do, it's also economically smart, because it unlocks the potential of so many more people to contribute to that changing economy. So let's just boil this all down for a second. This table really lays out the central fight, doesn't it? On one side, you have the new right, who are laser-focused on economic flexibility, valuing competence, and being adaptable. On the other side, you have the social democrats, who are on this dual mission. Sure, drive economic progress, but do it while creating social fairness, making sure there's opportunity for everyone. Two really different blueprints for the future of our schools. But hang on a second. What if both of these powerful arguments, as different as they are actually built on a shaky foundation? What if they're looking at the whole problem from the wrong direction? And that brings us to a much more radical question. See, both the new right and the social democrats kind of start from the same place. They assume that if we can just fix education, we can help fix the economy or make society a fairer place. But what if they have that cause and effect relationship completely backwards? This quote from Marxist scholars Bowles and Gintis just flips the whole debate right on its head. Their argument, which is all about class conflict, is that the problems we see in our schools, They're not the cause of our social problems. They're a symptom of the deep, deep inequalities that are already baked into our economic system. So from this point of view, trying to reform schools without first tackling the fundamental inequality in the economy, well, it's just doomed to fail. The argument is, as long as the economy itself is unequal, the school system will always, one way or another, just end up reflecting and reproducing those very same inequalities. And that brings us right about where we started, to that big, essential question. What is the point of education? We've now walked through three profoundly different and competing answers. So let's just quickly recap these three visions. For the new right, school is all about creating a flexible, skilled workforce for the modern global economy. For the social democrat, it's got a dual purpose. Yeah, advance the economy, but also build a fair, meritocratic society. And then for the Marxist, the role of education, well, it's a lot darker. It's simply to reproduce and justify the economic inequalities that already exist. And that leaves us with one final thought to take away from all this. When you look at the education system around you, the schools you know, the policies being talked about, which one of these three purposes do you actually see winning out in the real world? It's a big question and definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me.